Okay. Yes. Okay. Is it better? Is it better?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me know whenever it is low, so that
Sure.
I have this noise cancellation also. If it is low, or maybe I'll just switch off noise cancellation once again. Okay. How does it sound now?
Clear. Much,
Do you see
much better
any
than earlier.
background noises?
No.
Great, 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 great. So tell me about your week, guys. Or do you want to wait for Deepak as well? Can someone drop him some text?
I'm doing it.
Mm.
I got this dual monitor setup, so it's kind of really nice to see you guys on both the screens.
Nice. As you have a workstation at home, it seems like.
Yeah, awesome. So Deepak joined in. Hello, Deepak. Hello, sir. Deepak, can you hear me? Or anyone
Yeah, I
else?
can hear you. Hi.
Hi,
Awesome.
Deepak.
Hello, sir. How are you? Give him some minutes so that he can be ready, and then because I also needed some minutes, right? Yeah. So tell me about your week. How was it? Straight?
Uh, so it's been a busy week, just like I mentioned to you yesterday also. I've
Yeah.
been running with our performance review, quarterly business reviews. So today I kind of attended a full day event with SaaS Boomi. So if you have heard about SaaS Boomi, they are into connecting all the SaaS founders in India and then creating a platform for them to
Mm-hmm.
probably share and then learn a lot. So I, along with my CEO and TechEd, attended that conference, kind of a virtual conference for the whole day.
Yeah.
It was good actually. So it's more around scaling products, building products for between 1 million ARR to maybe 10 million ARR. So it was a good session to be a part of. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's a good week in terms of learning, and a lot of things happened at office. So it's been a busy week, but yeah, good.
Tell us about it. How, what did you learn there?
So it's majorly about how a SaaS company which is currently running at close to a 1 million ARR, how are you going to scale it up? So it depends on they discuss about team composition. So what should be the average team composition for you to scale up? So uh, we had a workshop kind of a stuff where they were enacting role plays for a particular case study. So there was a
Mm-hmm.
product manager who had to tell the sales and the customer success guys that see, I cannot launch a new feature because the customer success is telling me that there are a lot of bugs. Sales team wants a new feature. Now this is a paradox, catch 22 situation. So how he stood with them, how he explained why he cannot do that. That was a good session to have. That helped us understand how do you put together points against maybe a sales team or a customer success team. Tell them the facts, give them the exact data to back your decisions. So, sessions like this was there. Also, we had Ankit, so the Postman's co-founder. So he had a session on explaining how they scaled up Postman. Uh, so yeah, a lot of good, interesting sessions there today. Uh, Ron, I guess you're on mute.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. So before we can do that, can you guys record this? I am recording it, but for your sake, or for everyone's sake, can you guys do this recording
Yeah,
as well? This is getting
Yeah.
recorded, but for God's grace,
It's better to have two people at least from the last week's experience for sure.
Absolutely. Hey Deepak, how are you, man?
Hey Rohan, I'm fine. I've been swamped up with work for the past 1 week, so
No problem.
so how are
You turn
you?
on your video. Can you do that?
Yeah, just a minute. The internet connection is very slow here. Can you guys see me?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, awesome, man. We see you so many days, right?
Yeah.
Nice, nice, awesome. So tell us about your week. How was it?
So my week was like the same old, but we had a few trainings on few sessions and some refreshers. So I had like back-to-back meetings this week, and the same old, resolving the tickets and working 9 hours a week. I mean, 9 hours a day. That's it. Nothing new.
Yeah, nothing good. Why do you say that?
No, nothing new. Not nothing good. Nothing new.
Okay, okay, nothing new. Okay, no problem, man. You missed you missed something really. You shouldn't be missing
Yes,
that. The last session.
yes, yes. I know.
Yeah.
And
So
unfortunately, I think the recording was also, did not have the audio.
Yeah, that was a blunder from my side.
And,
But yeah,
that was a bad luck for me.
yeah.
yeah, bad luck for you, man. No problem. We can just have a recap. Shri, do you want to have a recap, or Rahul, do you want to? Let's have it half half, right?
Yeah. Rahul, you want to go first or should I start?
Yeah, I'll go first. So, Deepak, basically, we had Mayank Chugg, he's a designer in Mobi. So initially, so basically we had a brief introduction about ourselves. Mayank introduced about himself, what he does. And then also later on, we moved on to, discussing about our UPI payment app creation, right? So I started by initially telling him what exactly we did in the entire journey, from prioritization to what problem solving and how we are defining features and everything. So that, so you must be knowing how we have done, right? So the main points which he raised, initially he stopped me in the between, and he asked us, started inside of grilling me, because asking questions specific to what exactly customer segment was I trying to target, because he was very adamant that we have an UPI app, right? Then why are you building it? I gave him one means reason why we were trying to build it, but again, in that reason only there was some not exact clarity. So he came again with a lot of more questions again. So what he was trying us to learn is that first we need to define our user segment, and before starting anything, we need to target our segments for whom are we trying to solve problems. Because as because in the when I was trying to explain him, I was myself getting confused. Every other question, my target segments were getting changed. So it happened that we were trying to solve problem from everybody who's using the app. So, and he wanted us to be very specific that we can't solve problem for everybody. You can solve problem only for few people, and then you can move on to other segments. So the crux what he wanted us to know was that before doing anything, define your users. You should know for whom you are trying to solve your problem. Only then you will be able to solve the problem, and then also in later stage able to have metrics related to know that whether your feature is working or not. And he also gave his insights, how he used to see as a what he means a product manager basically does. So in his words, to be specific, he says that a project manager is someone, who sits back and lets other people work. He doesn't come in picture and doesn't take the credit. He's someone who sits back and makes sure that every other team is performing their task, and every team is aligning with another team. And he is not someone who will come in front, and boast about that the product is working. He says that if a product becomes a success, That is the that means that the developers, the designers are doing good. But if it becomes a failure, it is your responsibility as a product manager. So if you have that insight, if you know, if you have that values, that you can be a person who can sit back and let other take the credit, then only you should basically move into a PM field. And he also said that, there was the one thing which I related to this, was that he used the word gap. So he wanted us to, find the gap between users and the product. Because if, for example, there is a service being provided to a customer, we need to find the gap between the service and the customers for whom that product is designed. If we are able to find that gap, if there is any, then we can, find many solutions to that. Then only from that point of view, we can start our user journey and making products. So basically, I think this was overall what he tried to explain. Sriram, would you like to add something?
Yeah, so majorly Rahul summarized it, mostly what we discussed in the last session. To put it specifically, we discussed on the importance of having a user mapping before starting on a product. So you need to identify which is the target segment you're catering to. So unless you do that, you're not going to present any features or going to think of any features which has helped that particular user segment. So identifying the user segment is the major crux here. So once you do that, everything else falls in place. Like you are thinking towards the product, everything falls in place. So that's what Mike was trying to tell us. Along with that, we have something around how he sees a product manager from his lens and how a product manager should ideally be. Essentially, is the product manager should be the bigger man in the room, so he should be ready to take blame on anything goes wrong, and should be fair enough to provide the credit to all his team when a product becomes a success. So we discussed this, and there were a lot of other questions around design basically. So how does a design has to happen in a company? So why is a design system important? All this were some design questions which came from a few people who joined the conference last week. But majorly around product management, these two are the points which he wanted to specify to us. So all that we did with the UPA project was we know that we had to build a UPA app, and we straight away went into the development of the features. But rather we should have stepped back and then identified why do we want to build it and whom do we want to build it.
Yeah. So, Deepak,
Got it.
what's the noise
Yes.
that's coming? There seems to be some noise there. Sri, Deepak. Uh, okay, no problem. Uh, as long as you can hear us, that's fine. Just let us know when you can't hear us. Okay, Deepak, do you understand importantly what we discussed that time that you missed? I'll just expand on it, but tell me how much do you understand it? Oh God.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Deepak, are you stable right now? Your connection stable? Hello.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so let me explain it. I told this that time as well. So whenever we are building a product, there seems to be some lag. Deepak, I'm dropping you. Join back again. Okay. So let him come back, then we'll discuss this. He joined back. Deepak, can you hear us now?
Can you guys hear me now? I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you have any questions what we discussed just now?
No, Rohan, no questions from my end. It was pretty much clear.
Okay, I'm moving forward. So Deepak, just let me know whenever you feel like you have any questions. So let's start from the point where we discussed that
Sure.
Shri Rahul Deepak. So whenever we are building a product manager should know who are these four people or who are these five people, right? For which we are building a product. That becomes very important when. So that's what Mank also said, right? Even if you're a company that has $10 billion revenue, then also you'll have to figure out who are these 4 or 5 people. Eventually you cannot see that for a short company you can say that this is Ravi, this is Rahul, this is Deepak, this is Sriram, these are my 4 customers. But when your company is bigger, you make that personas of user. So this is Sriram is a employee who works in a ad tech company. So this is my customer. The second customer is Rahul, who is doing an MBA and he wants to join in as a PM, right? And third, Deepak is as a customer experience manager and he wants to join as a product manager as well. So these are my three main customers, right? So as a small company, I'll know that these are my customers. I can talk to you and get feedback. Now, when I am a $10 billion company, I have $3 million, 3 million users. I cannot go and talk to them. That's when you would say that these are the user personas that I have in my company. What that means is you, Sriram, represent a group of people, right? You so there is so this user persona will be whoever works in a company related to ads, that becomes one user persona. Second will be a person who is pursuing who quit his job to pursue something else to just switch over his domain, right? So that becomes another persona that Rahul is representing. Third persona is who is directly involved with customers like Deepak, and he wants to do product management. So these are the three personas I'll have, right? So that's very important, right? This was so important to me as well because in day-to-day life, right, in day-to-day development and this product management shit, you forget this, and when you forget this, it becomes a chaos because you cannot see products, like you cannot see whom you are building this product for, right? And then it becomes so hard to come back and say, okay, this is a shit, let's remove it, or this is so important, we should have it, right? Because now what happens is, I'll give you my example. So I am working on a product that is pretty much for anyone who is just starting cloud, right? Doesn't have any prior knowledge about cloud. Now what happened to him, I had this user, right? I had this user in mind that this is my ideal customer that my product is representing. Now the leadership comes up with something, right? So let's say they have some plan that they'll be able to scale it to 10,000 or 20,000 companies. Now the customer reps would have something else. Now the managers, or what do you say, the middle managers would have something else, right? Now in all this mess, when all your daily day-to-day this task, right, you forget that who the customer is, and you'll build what do you say, so much junk features or so much junk development will happen that your feature or your product will collapse, right? So this is very important to understand, right? So that was something I wanted to take back and have this discussion again. Now now let's talk about this, and I'll go to the next part. Let's talk about this. What do you guys think about this philosophy or this?
So I came across a situation around this today's event also, Rohan. So something similar to what you mentioned, not having a proper user persona or maybe a proper roadmap for your product. So when you decide a user persona, you have a proper roadmap. So a lot of companies get used to a place where they are taking all the requests which is coming across from the clients or from your sales team. So they get dwindled into all these efforts, and then finally they see that whatever they have developed in the past 6 months does not make any sense for their roadmap or does not align with their product vision or their users. So it's definitely essential for us to identify the right personas and then ensure that we are not building anything outside what we have to build or what is that as a vision we have. If something does not match our vision, then that's something which we should ideally consider whether we want to build it or not. And only if it makes definitive sense, we should be going ahead with the development.
You're on mute, Rohan.
Okay, so do you guys see my video clearly, right? This is video is okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is these things become very important at the time when you are performing these tasks, right? Why I'm saying this is because I have experienced this with me, that we forget what the original motto or original thing or original idea was, right? So let's discuss about some companies that you think fall in this category, that they have forgotten about the customers or the user experience have gone worse. And let's discuss this, because I want to take this further so that you guys know that this is the crux of product management, right? This is product management. If you forget about your user, it's all over. And it's so important that when I see a product that, let's say, I had a very great experience with Paytm at the time of when they launched, right? Now I barely use Paytm because there are so much better apps that do the same thing, and I really don't need to go to Paytm, right? I really don't want to add my money in wallet, right? Because UPI does that seamlessly, right? You don't have to do anything. Plus to that, they have added some transaction fees to credit cards. That becomes a hindrance. I won't pay you a transaction fees just to take out my money, right? Even though whatever the reason you have, whatever transaction fees you are paying, but this becomes a hindrance that I don't want to use a product. Same with Paytm Mall. The time we were giving freebies to everyone, everyone was happy doing that. But when you realize that this is not how it is, or this is not sustainable enough, you just roll back, right? And when you roll back, you understand who the customer was, and you understand that no one was your customer, right? So these examples, right? When companies have money, they'll pour in money and they'll capture audiences, right? But if you don't define that experience, that customer should be hooked to that, right? He should seem like this is my natural part. Let's take this example. If you want to talk to some person back a year, you'll choose to do it via phone, or choose to do it via WhatsApp, right? Now when you want to have some conversation, and you feel like this can I really want to have this again, read this again, or listen to it again, you'll use Zoom or you'll use Google Meet, because you think that this is a part of my life, right? This has become a normal. And that's what good products do. Take example of what is the new product that you guys are liking right now?
There is a product called Cashify. There is an app called Cashify. So it's
Cash
basically a Cashify. So
Cashify.
Cashify. So it's basically an app that lets you to sell your old mobile phones. So I tried to sell my phone. No, I actually sold my phone through the app around 1 year ago, and now they've expanded so much that they have introduced different categories, like to sell tablets and laptops, and even buy the other refurbished phones and tablets. So they've expanded in such a way now. So that's one of the app that I found very interesting and good.
Uh,
Okay, so Deepak, does that app makes you force you to do that transaction now?
So it's no, so it doesn't force me to do anything. So if I like go and check if my phone is eligible for for selling, and it just checks the phone's audio and Bluetooth and everything like internally, and it just shows me a price that I can get for the phone. If I cancel that process, then it just reminds me 2 or 3 times through SMS or in-app notifications that you tried to sell your phone but you haven't completed it. So would you like to try again or something like that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
I like
That's
to
what
add
that is what
something here,
I
Rohan.
was talking about.
This Cashify.in, while I was in the process of looking for jobs, I had an interaction with the VP of the product of Cashify.
Hmm.
So he basically had asked me to, visit the app and tell him the pain points which I felt, or in a way, the app could be improved. So what I felt was, if you are going to
Yeah.
as far as the app is concerned, it gives almost every information which you need for your mobile or anything which you want to sell or buy.
Hmm.
But if you go about you finding a price for your
Yeah.
phone, right? And if you go deep dive inside telling all the features which your phone
Hmm.
has and the age and everything, at the last it is going to ask you to enter your email ID to register. So I felt that for a customer who enters so many details in each page and go on to the last page, though they build an expectation, right? That the next last page will show me a price. And if at the last moment you go and ask a
Hmm.
customer for email ID, that
Yeah.
actually breaks the trust the customer, I think, must be developing in the way of entering all the features. So I kind of told this that I
Hmm.
think for a customer point of view, this, if you want to have a user ID of the people, if you want to know how many users are there, you could have asked the user ID in so many other ways, right? You could
Hmm.
have directly popped up a message there. You could have done it somewhere
Yeah.
else. But after going through so many process of entering the details of the phone, and at the last moment you ask for the customer, to enter your email ID, only then you will
Yeah.
be able to know exact price. So I think I was much disappointed. I think like
Yeah.
me, many users will be disappointed, and from that point, he will
Hmm.
just turn off the, cancel the site and go on to some other page. So I felt that this was one thing, but he didn't reply to me.
Yeah.
Honestly, I did
Absolutely.
mail my suggestion to him that this is what I
Hmm.
felt, and also they don't have any
Yeah.
offers or discounts. If
Yeah.
you see, they're not providing any discounts, offers, options, which you makes customer more, interested in
Hmm.
your, because you can sell your phone on other places as well. What will bring customer to your page, until unless you offer something
Yeah.
else. But that also I told him. But yeah, more precisely, uh, I gave my feedback based on that, transactions, at last when they asked for email ID.
Okay. So Rahul, tell me one thing. This is very curious. I am getting very curious about this. Now tell me one thing. So this is giving me a big pop-up that says I cannot do this. Cashify generally uses certain. So this is something that you can ask more in a much better way. Okay. Now, now tell me, what do you think? If I come to this page, right?
Hmm.
I can select my phone. Let's suppose I select my phone. So Deepak, I'll come to you as well, right? So what you like and
Yeah, yeah.
what what I see. So don't worry about that. Okay. So what is the process like? You enter your phone number or you enter your phone,
Model.
you select your phone.
Hmm.
Okay. Let's say
So, Rohan, I think if you're using the laptop, it will be different because if you use your phone, it will automatically detect your phone and you can go through the process where it checks your display and
yeah,
Bluetooth
I
connectivity,
am hearing.
charging capacity, and everything like
Yeah. So yeah, that is something absolutely that is something that everyone has solved, but maybe Cashify was the first one to solve this. It is
that.
basically you identify the mobile. Mhm.
I guess Flipkart had it from a long time ago. I don't know. So when I bought my previous mobile, there was an exchange. I was exchanging my old mobile and then getting my. So Flipkart has this exact
Mm.
thing. So when you try to do exchange on Flipkart using your mobile phone, it will ask you if you do some test. Basically, it will allow you to test your screen. It will ask you to touch in multiple places of
Yeah.
screen, audio, all this. So essentially the same.
Yes, yes,
Mhm.
similar thing happens.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe that has been generalized and every company has started using it. It
Yeah. So
started
one
with
good thing coming
IM.
out of
So some. Mhm.
Yeah, so one good thing out of it is that it removes the dependency of the person who is getting the delivery of the mobile. So basically, you take that out of the game, so they don't have go sit over there do all this tests. You do all of them and then tell the guy to go just pick it up. So uh, that's a that's the thing which you.
But what if Sriram, if you are doing it through laptop?
That's obviously a different way of.
Then how will it change? I mean, then how the person will test it? Will he come and do it physically, or?
I believe so.
Actually, yeah, actually, Rahul, when I sold my phone, right, after passing all the tests, there was a price that was given. The price that was given to me was 3,000. But there was a guy who came to pick up the phone, and he did some initial inspections, in person, and he found out some more flaws. And I just got around 2,600 or something for that phone. So they do an direct inspection of the phone also.
Okay.
Mhm. Mhm. So these are the few questions that they're asking me. Are you able to make and receive calls?
I think Rohan, there is a lag between your screen and your audio.
Okay.
Now, you are on the page. Are you able to make and receive calls, right?
Yeah. I see a lag as well. So I don't know. Let's talk about this.
Hmm.
Let's talk about this. Deepak, now tell me, you have they automatically take it what's your phone, right? And then they do test, right, what is a display and how the audio looks like. Now what happens?
Yes.
They give you a price straight away.
There are few things that they check. Okay, the first one is I don't remember the flow exactly, but first they detect your
Mm-hmm.
model, and they check. They ask you to connect your charger and check if it's charging. So that is one thing. And they also ask you to connect your headphone to the jack, and check the audio. And there's a screen which displays the touch sensitivity of the phone. So you will have to
Yeah.
clear all the things on the screen. So that is one thing. And Bluetooth connectivity, Wi-Fi connectivity, and a few
Mm-hmm.
basic checks. And they'll just ask basic questions like, does your phone have any scratches, or is there
Mm-hmm.
any black dots on the screen or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, they at the last page they just show the final quotation of the price.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Makes sense. Not now, Rahul, did you test it on your mobile or your laptop?
Laptop.
Laptop. Okay, so that's my assumption that they might not be able to take OTP or something from where that.
Yeah, but still, see these questions which you're seeing on the screen, and when you enter all the answers,
Mhm.
and then you click on continue, so you expect as an user that you'll get a exact price. Only then you have come to the next page. But I personally
So
felt that user ID could have been asked much before.
yeah, I agree. So these things. So eventually, one thing is you start what is needed in the start, right? So what is the most important information you need so that you can distinguish this users, right? So you have. I'll tell you, this has been my problem as well. In my product we started doing a self-serve flow, right? So self-serve flow means customer come in and they do everything by themselves, and it's very hard for B2B products. So B2B is business coming in and doing products, right? Seeing products. And self-service very hard because sales driven approach is followed in every B2B. Now what happened is we started doing a B2B flow. There was calculator, or there was an optimizer that says you drop your bill, will show you how much discount you get, right? So that was an algorithm that goes backend and identifies what discount you'll get. I'm not giving a context because this can go somewhere. So let's they drop it to they drop their bills, they get their discount. That discount is calculated automatically through backend through AI. So now what happened is we have to identify these customers. Who are these customers that are dropping their bills here? Who are the customers who are dropping their bills here, right? Or uploading their bills. Now our question is, do you want to ask them what is their email ID before they drop their bills or before they upload their bills, right? Or do you want to ask them after they upload their bills, right? Now tell me what do you guys would prefer in this case? Then there is two options now. And
I
explain
I
yourselves.
would, yeah. So I'll go with way after dropping the bill. So
Hmm.
that's definitely maybe a turn off for the user that he did not see the discount straight away. But we are actually making him do the task which we want him to do. We are essentially making him. We are actually generating the action which the user wanted to do, and then asking for a email ID or maybe a phone number that he might be able to give us. But if you're asking a email ID and the users are finicky about email ID, is not even performing that action. So I would maybe go with the second step. So it's like doing your onboarding. I mean, trying to keep your onboarding steps lower, and then ensure that he's doing the first task before you ask further information.
Fair enough.
Uh, so yeah,
Yeah.
that's my thought process.
Rahul.
Uh, I would say that I would ask it in the first place only because if my customer has come to that point where he wants to see the discount, then he will be willing enough to enter the ID and then see his discount. And if he is not willing enough, he will automatically leave. So our customers will we have to target our customer in such a way who we feel will take. Not everyone will go and want to have this discount. They just pay the bill and leave. So
Yep.
if we go and ask for user IDs from them, they will definitely not be interested in giving so. But if a person has reached to that point where we feel that this person is looking for a discount, he will enter the ID, and and then he will be knowing that after this process my discount amount will be shown to me, rather than asking for that comes as an something as a shock to be to a customer. I feel it that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
That
Deepak.
because the main purpose of asking a user ID is for us to know exactly our customer, who is our customer. That can be done in many other ways. I feel why should a process our main feature should why should it be disturbed in between what we are trying to promote it as a something as a different from our competitors. Why should we break the flow in between of our core feature? Why can't we ask a user ID some other way?
That's a way to think as well, yeah. Deepak, what do you think?
Well, I would ask the email ID after showing the discount, because basically, if I'm a customer, I would first like to know how much I'm getting before entering my details, because nowadays everyone is skeptic to give out their details upfront. So if I see the discount, if I'm happy with the discount, and if I'd like to go ahead, then I would be comfortable with adding the email address. So that is from a perspective of customer experience, I would do that. But if I want to know how many customers are, if I want to contact the customers and, get a feedback as to why they dropped it midway, so then I would ask them the email address upfront so that I can get back to them and ask them if they have dropped out in the process. I can get a better clarity as to why they didn't go through the complete process. So I have two different opinions on this based on the, customer satisfaction or the data that I need. So that's
Okay.
how I would go.
Rahul, I'll come to you just a second. Uh, Deepak, you have two options. That's very good. But you tell me what is the option that you'll prefer when you are the PM.
So at the starting stage, I would definitely go with after showing the discount. So get the email address, because there I would want the customer satisfaction and the easy usage of the app first. So I would go after the discount price.
Okay, fair enough. I'll counter that maybe midway. I'll tell what happened with me afterwards. Rahul, now. you were at.
I just wanted to confirm the later part. Is it that you are showing the discount and then you are asking for email ID, or you are asking for email ID and then showing the discount later? What are you saying, Rohan? Means I want a clarity on
You are
that.
the product manager.
No,
You
for
can do
yeah.
whatever you can.
If
So
that is the
that
case,
problem
my
statement is
huh,
simple. You show it before, after, that's your call. You are the product manager, right? You
no,
have that permission.
okay. If no, so I like to change here that if that is the case, it is better to show the discount first and then ask for the email ID. We're
Hmm.
saying that if you want to claim this discount, you can enter your email ID and go ahead, because in that case the person who is sees the discount will be more uh, interested in claiming that discount if he sees the amount of discount he's getting. I understood it differently, that you are asking for the details after the he scans the bill, and
Hmm.
then after asking the details you are showing the discount amount. But if that is the case, that you're showing the discount amount and then you're asking the email ID, I think that is a much better case, because the person will be much more interested after seeing the discount amount and entering his email ID to claim the discount. Yeah.
Okay, very nice perspective. So nice perspectives coming from everyone. So Deepak, you had added 2 points, right? And so that is what sums up this conversation as well. That you can go either way. You can just have it beforehand, so that you can count how many people came in at least, and then contact if they drop off. Or you can just have it afterwards. If they are interested in the discount, they'll come and right, they'll come and they say.
Yes.
Okay, now I'll tell what happened actually there, right? So we had this problem. It was such a big problem because when it comes to money and when it comes to $1 million in a month, you are very skeptical that is this what you're showing is real or not, right? Because this is so much of amount that so I'll tell you ideally how much a single transaction or single bill. So these are the cloud bills, right? People have. So companies like Flipkart that has around $18 million of bill monthly, so they get around 10-12% discount, right? Now they come in and they say this much discount, they'll be skeptical, right? They need a person that can validate that, okay, this is correct, this is something. You're not able to hear me? Okay. So the problem there will become, they need somebody to validate this, that what I'm seeing on screen is correct, right? Now what what I figured out, right? Not I, the designers, the programmers, they figured out this, that when you show them a validation before they come to this page, right? When you show them that yes, this is genuine, or this is something that we have been doing for long, right? So the first marketing page, that was the marketing page said we have saved $45 million for our customers over a year, right? And you show them this name that Amazon saved this much and Paytm saved this much and something like that, right? And these things validate that this is what I'll be getting to see is correct, because Flipkart is also getting this much, right? Because Flipkart won't come to you, Flipkart's VP won't come to you and say, okay, I need a discount, I'll just go to discount calculator. Some middle companies, right? The companies who won't have bills a lot bigger, they can come and they say, okay, Flipkart is a bigger brand. If they are getting, why not me? Why not I? So the tagline said, uh, Flipkart saved up $1.5 million last month. Why won't you? Why don't you? Right? So this triggered me. If they are saving, I also save, right? And when this is the user psyche, so the user psyche is something when they are going to experience the product, when they know that this is the expectation that I have set, I can save this much, let's see how much I can save. So when I go and said this is the discount that will calculate my discount, this is where I drop my bills. Now what happens is, you can ask them the questions. Why I say this is, B2B products are so limited. You will have limited customers. You won't have a million or 100,000 customers coming in. You'll have very limited customers. and you need to know who are the customer who are leaving, and you need to know who are the customers who don't want this discount, and there is a scope of negotiation, right? So you need to know these information. So that's why we decided to just go with getting the email ID beforehand, before they put in the calculator, before they put in the bills. That is because the user psyche is, they have seen that this is how much discount I can get. Now I'm asking them information because they are expecting something out of it. And when they put in the email address, I know how many people come in, and how many people uploaded the bills, and how many people went after bills and onboarded to the platform, right? So these are the circumstances that might change your decisions as well, right? Because in B2C product, it's very simple. You'll get plethora of users coming in. You just need to know who are the best customer, or who are the customer that you need to keep. And in that case, second option that Rahul and Deepak also suggested, they'll ask them after showing the discount, right? So yeah, just like how Google Pay does, right? Google Pay gives you scratch cards after you do a transaction, right? They say that you do a transaction of more than 1,000 rupees, you get a discount coupon that is more than 0 to 500. They won't give you a scratch card before you do the transaction. So that's the case of B2B. Now in B2C, sorry, in B2B it completely gets roller coastered, right? It is completely opposite, because you need to lure someone to come into platform, because there is a dearth of customers. You understand? There will be only 1,000 customers you're serving. There will be only 10,000 customers. Freshwork that is valued at around $2 billion right now serves only 10,000 to 20,000 customers, right? So this is how B2B works. This is something, or something that just went out. Now let's come to this. You guys don't see my screen, I guess.
Sorry, Ram, what was you mentioning? I missed your last one.
You
Regarding
don't see
screen.
my screen, right?
Yeah, we can see you.
Um,
Yeah, we don't see your screen. We can see your
okay.
video.
User psyche. You see this now? See my screen now? Okay. So let's come back to this document, right? Let's come back to the reality, the whole foundation of what we are doing right now till now. So who is a product manager? We all know. We all know who and how a product manager is, why he is needed, when he is needed, right? I guess we everyone knows that. QA team, design team, development team, how this whole process of building a product, making requirements, defining a user flow, then creating a stories, then assigning it to developers, taking estimates, prioritizing, design, and everything. So that is the whole. So these are the things that is your day-to-day job, right? You'll be having a feature, be it from a leadership or you brainstorm yourself, right? Or it comes from customer success, that these are the features that much needed. You prioritize it, then you go and do a user flow, go back to the designers, give them a story, explain everything, go back to go back to your programmers or developers, and say what is the estimate, guys. And then you decide, okay, this is going first, this is going second, and this will be the release. This can be released in 2 versions, and then it's shipped. So that's a day-to-day job. So that's your daily stand-ups. So daily stand-ups, these things I didn't want to touch on because these are so basic that you might be reading it anywhere. So your daily stand-ups is something you do every day, so that you are making, or you are having this daily status of how people are performing, and where are we on task. And it is completely on you if you want to do it or if you don't want to do it. So that's what Mayank also suggested, right? if you want to, however you want to do it, because everyone has constraints, right? So how do you define that constraints is much important. Okay, so you know how a product manager's daily job is, right? Who what it does day to day. Now let's see. You have a product. Let's say you have that UPI app. You have this ready. It's been 2 months, and you have that version one ready. You have to go to the market. How will you say that this has become a success, right? Or this has to improve some more, right? So that we target the audiences. And third is, are the target audience that you think of, these are the target audiences, are they coming to your platform? Are they using it? So these are the questions. So this is the pre-market phase, right? Pre-market phase is so exciting. Whenever you're building stuff, even though you're building a garbage can, you will be very excited, right? That there is something that I'm doing, right? And then when you go to the market and then say, fuck, this garbage can, there is already so much of garbage can, who will buy my? So this realization only comes when you go to the market and see people are using it or not, right? Okay. Now let's take a look. Let's take a look back. What is prioritization? We know, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. How idea becomes reality. So there are a lot of uh, interpretation to that. We know how we can do this execution. A user psyche that I guess you are already familiar of, because we are all users and know our psyche. If we know our psyche, you know everyone's psyche, right? But it looks very simple, but it is the hardest thing to do. So this is also something that you'll be working on, or what you say, the hard part of your job, product design.
Rohan, this how
Then
idea becomes reality is basically till the time the product is shipped, right? Then only we call it as a.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So this is ideally how you define a vision, right? So your vision of a product and what you ship. So if you go to the designers and and say that we ship this, and then they'll say that, dude, I didn't design this, because what you envision at the start, it's not probably what you ship at the end, right? It's very important to be that precise and be close to what you imagined, right? Because you see, I'll tell you how this happens. Take the example of Skype, right? When they started doing this video call, they started with uh, this interface where people will start having audio calls first, even though you choose videos by default, and then you'll have to uh, enter your video, or you'll have to enable your video, right, afterwards. And most of the people will, if they Skype started working on web browsers first, right? They had this web app. When you started this app, now for Google Meet, you just click on this camera and you see the video, right? You start your video. But back then, when Skype started video call, they had this button. When you click on it, and it says which webcam you want, even though when you have the single webcam, it and you select this is the webcam, and then it's okay, and then you see your video. So that's how annoying, or that's how uh, you envision something. You envision that you will be able to make a video call, and what you deliver at the end, that's, you don't have to be that the line of the distinction should be very minimal at that point. Okay, so product designers and developers, what are the role? We know that. How to measure success. So this is, let's talk about this today. We'll just have 30 minutes. Okay, now how to measure success. Let's suppose, Shri, there is a 5-year-old kid you have. Let's suppose that. Okay, now you say, how will you measure that he is a good boy, or he has been good in studies, or anything? How do you measure a user, or not a user, a child, simple child?
Probably on his behavior, how good he has been,
Mhm,
whether he's been naughty, doing.
mhm.
So
So
that's
these are some abstract thing, right? You have to define what naughty is, or what a good behavior means, right? You'll have to measure that, right?
yeah.
So
Maybe
your naughtiness can be he goes to the pool and wets himself every day. Fire. So this can be one measure, and you count it as this is if he doesn't do that, he doesn't be a naughty person, right? So these so if you are behaving, or if you are measuring any behavior, you quantify something that you think that is not quantifiable, right? So you cannot quantify how many people love cred, or how many people love some other product, right? And that's because, so these are some abstract thing that you cannot measure, but when you start measuring that, I'm really against it in starting of a at a very small product, right? If you have a very small product, that is just a pre a million users you have, and you start measuring the KPIs and everything, because it's not at that point of time you're not building product for somebody, for numbers, right? For people who just come in and drop off. You're building product for these four people. So you go back to your roots. You If you're building this product for four people, and then you're able to identify four more other people who are not like the four you had previously, you start incrementing the product so much that you don't have to go on to numbers and identify which are the people, or who are dropping off, who are just, because that's when. So this will be very controversial for you guys as well, to me saying this, that numbers won't matter to you in this period. That's because when you start focusing on numbers, right, you lose the essence of building the product. And why I am saying this is, take example of GeoMeet, right? GeoMeet, what will they do right now? They have just built a product that, whatever it is a software, anything. They have built a product. There was a team who built it, right? And they'll start counting numbers, how many people have joined in, how many people are dropping off, how many people are actively working at daily. And so daily active users are DAU, and MAU is a monthly active users, right? So these key terms that you'll be seeing in every job applications as well. So just be making you aware of that this is also a very important part of job profiles in product management. You should be knowing it, but don't follow it wholeheartedly when building a product, because when you start doing it, you lose the essence. Now, coming back to this, GeoMeet will start counting its user, right? They'll say, this is the point where the customers are losing, right? This is the point where customers are leaving the video calls, or this is the pain point that customer success are reporting. And let's compare it back to Zoom, right? Zoom started from something scratch. They started product for these. They'll have these four people in mind. Who are these people? A professional, a school teacher, a student, and what do you say? A VP or government agencies, right? They started from this principle. They know who are this next four people that we want to scale up this product to, right? They'll be able to imagine that, they'll be having that vision, right? Who is the customer, and who are we. This is very important for, right? When you go back and see Zoom's post in 2013 in Twitter, you go back to Eric S. Yuan, who is the founder of Zoom. Go back to his profile right now, even in 2019, in December 23rd, there was, so in US, right, it is a holiday period, right? The Christmas and New Year, right? It is a holiday period, right? So this guy posted on his Twitter, right, Eric SUN. He said this Zoom doesn't work on this server. I and there is I lost a client because of Zoom working or not working at this pretty moment, right? hanged up and it frozen back again. It was a problem that was because of the user's computer, right? His computer was not very great enough, or he was using very not very high end laptop. You won't believe this guy. This guy went back to his desk. He alone fixed this bug, right? He alone fixed this bug in 2 days, and he said on 25th of December, Christmas evening, he said that, "Sir, I'm really sorry for your loss. I'll be issuing $1,000 this discount coupon or $1,000 coupon. You can use it on Amazon or anywhere else. And by the way, I have also solved this bug within 2 days. I was just sitting by, and no engineers was on their desk because this is a holiday period. I just fixed this for you." So this is what I mean by what you build is from what you love for the product, right? You'll see these products that is built from hurt, right? You see this and you say, okay, this is what I'm not losing. This is not what I'm not going back and not using it again. Like you start owning an Apple product, you won't go back and do and switch it to Android, right? Because you start loving it. This is how design, or this is how much, if you start developing something, or if you start working on something you love, you won't have to go to numbers to identify where other people losing or where other people churning. But in real time product, some mediocre products like my company and like my product, we'll have to go back to numbers and see where are people turning away and doing where they can improve. Now what happens is you have people coming in. So leave everything outside of your head. You don't know what product manager is. You are a user right now. You know that when you go to a website, you are a visitor to them, right? You are the visitor to them. So Google will have 1.8 billion in a minute or 1.8 billion in a day visitors, right? So this is the whole. So let me draw something. Can I draw something here? Everyone knows? Can I draw anything stable, something like that? Maybe.
Draw.
Google Meet has slowed down my computer so much. Zoom is so much better.
I'll send you an app
Okay,
link.
you
This schedule. Yeah, schedule on it. Or JSPaint.app. This allows you to draw on screen. So,
JSPaint.app.
yeah.
That's correct, right?
Yeah, that's correct. JSPaint.app.
There was one app, House Party, which had its features. So while video call only, you could draw
Mm,
on the screen.
yeah, yeah. Clubhouse or House
House
Clubhouse.
Party, I
Both is
think.
fine.
House Party.
I guess house party that
Mm.
became popular with this lockdown.
Yeah, House Party.
Yeah, people are using it, right? There are people who love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were few
I see a
features
lot
which
of
were
beauty
nice
side people watching.
initially. Uh, in the time of
Mm-hmm.
lockdown, I think they released this for people to connect, play games.
Yeah.
Everything was there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So this is a paint, online paint, right? Oh my God. Awesome. So pencil. Okay. So let's suppose these are the visitors you have.
Okay.
It is XP from XP's level, right? Windows XP, my MS Paint interface. So this is the visitor we have. So let's suppose This is the overall customers that you can have end customers from. This is the target audience, or this is the real audience you have. Target audience can be something, anything in your head, but when you go to the market, this is the real customers that you have, right? So yeah, I really don't think I can use it. Let me find out something better. Go to this, share your screen. We'll save time. Okay, you guys can see my screen, right? Let me share my phone screen. Can I do that from present screen? Okay, awesome.
You want me to share?
You guys,
Yeah.
okay, no problem. Okay. Okay, we'll have to do vertical. So let's do this. You have this circle that I'm really bad at this. Sorry. So this is the river, or this is the ocean you have, right? This is the market you have. It's not a perfect circle, but just bear with me. So this is the whole customers you can have. Let's suppose we have this 100 customers here, right? Now out of this, okay, so you guys see a lot opposite. So, yeah, how do I turn? And do it on my phone. Do it on my laptop. This is so. This is the need of product, right? You guys understand? This is where we'll need so much. If Zoom should give us a feature, right? We go to a whiteboard and do something. This is how we develop products, or this is how we develop features, right? You can add one more customer who really needs this. So this will be a fifth customer that we were talking about. Okay, give me a second. We have this, I guess.
I'm not able to see the screen. Is it just for me or for
Yes,
Rahul?
me too. Yeah, I'm not, yeah,
Yeah, now I can see.
yeah, I can say it now.
You could be able to see me as well. Okay, now we have it. I guess this is much better. Okay. Let me draw now.
You can in fact open the normal paint, I guess, when you're sharing the entire desktop, I believe. I mean your laptop's paint app should also work.
Okay, let me do this. Visually, you guys can understand. So I'll do it visually. No problem, right? Let's not go to the word. So let's suppose this is where your ocean, or this is the whole set of customers you have, right? Let's do it this way. Sorry. So you see, this is where you can grow. Tech illiteracy, right? So this is the whole customers you have, right? Let's suppose we have this 100 customers. These are customers coming in, Now in the this will be the customers you'll say are daily visitors, right? You have 100 daily visitors. You really don't see my. I'll just show it right now. You have 100 daily visitors. Now you say this. These are their daily visitors, or this is potential customers, potential users, right? And the more conversions you have from this point, the more good a product is, right? Now let's take an example. If you go to Google homepage, there is a 90% or 70% chance you will be searching something, right? So the friction is very less in that case. So you are able to convert. You're able to convert. What do you say? 70% of users, right? So you don't have to do a lot of drama, or you don't have to go to your billboard and say, uh, you don't have to go to the backboard and see where are the people journey, because if you have 70% people what do you say, coming in and doing what you wanted, you have converted 70% of your users. So you have converted 70% of your potential users to actual users, right? Now that in that context, go back to some application where they have to identify how many people come in on their application and how much features they use, right? So this is the macro feed. This is the macro metric that I'm talking about. Macro means the holistic details or holistic view of your product. People will come and say, you have 100 people who initially joined this app on day one, and 20 people signed in, and 10 people use it, right? So only out of that 10 people, you will be able to identify the daily active users and monthly active users, right? So that might be confusing, because daily active users are your users, right? So you are able to convert only 10 users on day one. So you'll be able to only calculate out of that 10 who are your daily active users and your monthly active users, right? Now, once you are able to identify that, how will it help is, I really don't know if monthly active users makes any sense. It makes sense for people for a product that is being used in a month. So let's suppose there is something a cred. You do a credit card payment only once in a month. So there a monthly active user is a better metrics to identify who are the customers and to identify the problems or the revenue stream or the success metrics, right? But on the same page, if you go to an app like stock trading app, or maybe raise up not raise up a what is that app?
Zerodha.
Zero the yeah. So this app will have daily active users because people will do trading every day, right? So metrics will differ product to product. Now, how do you improve daily active users and monthly active users, right? So this goes back to what we were discussing from day one, that if you are able to improve the life of users, if you are able to add some value to them, and if you are not able to add value to them, then there is a drop off happening. So then you won't be able to identify the daily active users. You won't be able to retain your daily active users and monthly active users, right? If you are able to identify which is that point, then you'll be able to improve that. So these metrics come in picture at that time, right? So in reality, what happens in organization, they don't give shit about numbers till the time if their ass is not on fire, right? Now let me explain you what do I mean by that. When you go back to a company, let's suppose a Paytm, right? And you are a product manager for that native app, you won't care about the number till the time you see a certain decline in your revenues or you see a certain decline in your active users, right? You won't care because there are so much users. If there are if the business is going as usual, right? If the business is going
Yeah.
as usual, the chances are very less that you will be going back to the numbers and seeing what is there. When so this is the mistake that companies do and startups excel, is you're able to identify that gap much quicker in startup because you have a less number, or you're able to identify your ass is on fire even if a single customer leaves. But on Paytm, you won't be able to identify their ass is on fire even though a million customers leave, right? And even though our revenue of 15%, you have, what will happen to Paytm? They'll be able to reason the drop off happening on their platform right now. The product manager can say that there is a cash crunch happening. People are not paid well. There is a layoff happening. So there is ideally there won't be transaction happening on the platform. So they are going to reason it well. But 2 years down the line, when they see that Paytm is not able to generate revenue how much they used to, then they'll identify, okay, our ass is on fire. Now start looking at numbers. Where is that drop off happening? Where is that feature that we are lacking, right? Then they'll go back to the dashboard, to the drawing board, right? So that's what I'm saying. These numbers are important even at the starting stage, right? But at the starting stage, you are able to identify the problem yourself, right? Because you are so engrossed and building that stuff that you are able to identify. If you have 1,000 people using your product, you can say that this is a problem and I know that, right? But if you are a product manager of a application that has 50 million users, you won't, because even you have a specific need, right? If that product is fulfilling that, you won't care because you're not the user right now. So that is something, how holistic data plays role, right? Now let me tell you one thing. There was an app called Salary, Akli Salary या कुछ ऐसा ही था वो,
Early salary, I guess.
early salary, yeah, early salary. Now they had this app, early salary, right? It was, was it a startup or it was a company of somebody else?
I
I
guess it
forgot.
was a startup. They were conducting some events in co-workspaces, all those. I believe it was a startup.
It was not a part of some other company, right? It was part of Times, I guess. Times
Uh,
Internet.
I'm not absolutely sure.
Can you check it for me?
Yeah, I'm just doing that. No, no, it's a startup.
Now,
It's founded in 2015. It's not with
okay,
Times.
okay, so it's a startup. Now I'll tell you a single problem that two companies solved in a very different way. Now, early salary is an application that you guys know. Then there's an application called Cred, right? You both know these applications. Now, the problem with early salary was they needed some documents to verify how much they are going to lend up a person, right? Early salary was you give somebody a loan and they pay it back when they receive their salaries. It was like that, right? That was the business model. Now, credit, we all know the business model. You are able to pay credit card bills, now even pay your rent. So, at the time of early salary, they wanted to have documents of the customers, right? They needed to know what job you are doing and how much you earn, and on that basis, they are able to dispense something to you so that you can go back and say, "I got a loan, I got a early salary." Now, on the other hand, credit also needed access for your credit card bills, right? Only then. Okay, Deepak, so you join in with me. This is very important, right? So
Okay.
you'll also be uh,
Okay.
just ask somebody.
Uh, Rohan,
You're on mute, Rohan. You're on
we're
mute.
not able to hear you here.
Not able to hear me.
Now we are able to hear. For a brief
Okay,
period of
Yeah, yeah,
time,
now I can hear.
awesome. So what I was saying is, Deepak, do join in what I'm saying, right? So there was a problem
Okay.
with early salary. They needed documents, and credit. They also needed the credit card bills from the customers. How credit
Okay.
does it? They access your email. they're able to read credit card.
Yes, yes.
And same with early salary, they are able to access your email, they are able to read your salary documents. Now, both had this same problem that they were not able to read this PDF, read this statement because it was password protected, right?
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
how did early salary solve this problem is they asked the customers to type in their password, which were illegally, first thing. And second thing, even though it was illegal, it was something that was not a very seamless experience for the user, right? Primarily. On the secondary hand, how CRED solved this problem is anyone can imagine how did they do this, because that when I heard this, it blew my mind that time. Anyone wants to just give a shot or think how did they solve this? No. Deepak, do you have any idea about that? Do you, guys-
Um,
do you,
okay. Is it by reading the SMS?
CRED does read my messages. I don't think I have not given him the permission. No,
No, CRED does not read messages. They just get email access.
no. Deepak, go back when I say this. Go back to Harish and ask him if they are doing it or not. So
Okay,
what
sure.
CRED does is, in your email, it is set what is the password. So it says that it is a combination of your date of birth and your name first three letters or first four letters. And they have both this information, right? So if it's HSBC, it is just a single PAN number. If it is HDFC, it is your father's name plus your date of birth. It is written in the email. And if they are reading that email, they know what is the password, right? They go back, and if they have this answer, they go back and just type in. So this is a manual process that they do automatic. So this is how you do brute force, right? So these are things that a human can do, but you automate it, right?
Yeah.
So this is how credits opens your PDFs and displays your credit card statements. And that is the reason why when you get a credit card statement, there is a brief 30 to 1 hour period after which only you can see a statement on your credit application, right? Because this is in this period they start decrypting your what do you say, decrypting your statements at that time. So
Yeah.
this is also some very insightful thing you guys want to. So this is not, yeah,
But do we need to decrypt this every time the bill is generated?
no,
Because the password would be same, right?
yeah, but you have to enter that, right? You have to do that
Uh,
manually. You have to
Manually.
do that through automatic. So this is also, so Deepak, just go and find it out please for me. If
Yeah,
this is
yeah, I will.
awesome. Let's hear back from you for the next session. Now
Sure.
coming back to our questions. Daily active users, monthly active users, you all know. Now, how do we identify if we have shipped this version one, that what are the metrics coming in? So we say that 100 people are coming in, right? 30 people dropped off, 20 people attempted sign in, right? So 30 people dropped off means 70 people remaining. 70 people attempted signing in, only 30 completed, right? Or out of 30 people, there will be a 20 people are daily active users, or maybe 10, and you 20 people as a monthly active users. So daily active users is a user coming in at least one time in a day. Monthly means one time in a month. So when you, so these are the metrics, right? How we are able to solve some problem with this metrics is, so let's tell you how. So there is a TED Talks by Netflix VP of product, right? He is the CPO chef. So he explains is how scientifically they are doing design through this uh, numbers, right? So you guys might want to just listen to that because it's not repeating the same thing, right? You, if you do it originally, if you understand that originally, you'll be able to understand much better, right? Okay. So I'll just give you a brief context of how numbers are important as well in very important times, right? You don't have to do it every time. Let's suppose, let's give a real example. You guys know this Ujjwala Yojana that government came in.
Sure.
Which Yojana? Please come again.
Ujjwala Yojana, Pradhan Mantri
I
Ujjwala
have
Yojana.
heard that, yeah, Ujjwala related to some, I think.
I might understand what maybe we don't know by the name.
Let me check.
What is
Let
that
me.
you?
Oh, okay.
Ujjwala Yojana, give it a Google search. Give it a Google search and identify see what is there.
Cylinder to each and every people, yeah, woman. Yeah.
Okay, LPG connection.
You give,
LPG.
yeah, you give up your connections and somebody else. You give up your subsidy so that somebody else can go and get a cylinder.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right now, I'll tell you how data becomes important in these contexts. Right. So there was a startup called How India Lives, or what is that? I'll come back to that name of the startup. Right. I know that lady. I talked to that, but yeah, it's been a lot of time. So I'll come back to you with name. Right?
I
So the
guess it's how
problem,
India lives. That's a website around that. How India lives.
how India
Maybe
lives is something else. How India lives is okay. I'll come back to what I was saying. So the problem with this whole initiative was you're able to identify who you want to give cylinders to, right? But in order to give that cylinders, you need to have that store, or you need to have that agency where a cylinders are stored so that you can distribute it, right? So you need to identify these distribution centers at accurate point where you don't have to walk 20 kilometers to get a cylinder, right? That is a pain people have currently in villages. They usually have the cylinder agency at 2 or 20 kilometers that they maybe through their vehicles or through foot they go and get the cylinders. The main problem with this whole initiative was the same thing, right? So these folks, these four people, there was a lady and two people, they had the startup. They said, we can solve this. Just give us the data you guys store on census of census. So census is something that you store for all your citizens, right? So they were able to identify. So census data was stored in 2011 in registers. So it was stored in registers. So it's not digitized. First challenge they solved is they digitized it through PDF readers and OKRs, right? Then they were able to so 80% of data was lost, right? 20% out of 20% data, they were able to locate these houses through latitude and longitudes, right? They were able to identify which is the most densely populated areas, and then you are, if I was able to give you, let me search it for you. So then they were able to identify the main hub where they can connect everybody in the radius of 2 kilometers, right? So every individual right now is almost not 100%. India is a very vast country. Almost at a radius of 2 kilometers from a gas agency, right? So this is where a data becomes very important when you're doing something at scale, right? So when you're talking scale, you won't be able to make good decisions based on intuition anymore, right? You won't be able to, because your intuition is always also what do you say, have biases, right? It has biases, so it will be something. Give me a second. Gas stations. Can anyone pull out LPG gas stations, the map? uh, Because my internet was very slow. Okay, we have run out of time. Okay. Do you find it?
I've shared a link chat.
Open it. Open it. Go share.
Okay,
Share
I'll
it.
just share.
Mm-hmm.
So, just expand this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what is the radius of this map? Just scroll upwards a bit. Which is that? Which is that? Which is this place?
It's Chennai actually.
Mm-hmm. Chennai should have LPG. So,
Yeah, so it has, it has. So this is completely Chennai.
mm-hmm. So if you go and see the radius of these two places, Chef and
Hmm. Probably these two.
yeah, is this 2 kilometers? So Chennai will obviously have it, right?
Yeah,
So so this
maybe a
uh,
smaller town.
mhm.
Go near Mamallapuram.
Yeah, so I'm almost there. So, this is close to Mamallapuram.
Mhm.
There are
Yeah.
one gas station here.
Mm.
There's a one gas station only.
Yeah,
This
further to that, we don't have anything in this locality. So this is the gas station here.
Maybe these are the ones which are registered by the government,
Possible.
because yeah, many of them now have that of private agencies as well, which I think won't be registered there on the government's website.
Mhm.
But they have that tie up with the agencies, main agencies, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I think that won't be. If you just
Okay.
type LPG stations in Tamil, you just click on that, you can see a lot. I think. Sweet.
Okay, no problem. Just we can have a look maybe later as well. Now, so idea was to give you what data can do, right? So let's close down with one more example I read. So there's a book called Big Data. So if you want to go in uh, depth of how data is so impactful and how data works at scale and how why it becomes so important, so I'll recommend you this book that is simple big data. There's no numbers. No numbers means no numbers, only words. So don't freak out with the word, with the name of the book. So it's called book Big Data, right? It will give you around 12 examples of how data has solved so many issues or so many large scale problems. I'll give you one example, right? There was a issue in London, maybe London or Boston, US, right? So there was a issue with metropolitan, yeah, what do you see? Mm, Agencies, what do you call it? Local authorities,
Uh,
municipalities, right?
Municipalities or metropolitan corporations.
Yeah. Okay, so the New York, the Boston city had this problem of sewage. So the sewage tanks or sewage, what do you say, the sewages we have on roads, right? Sewage, what do you say, sewage
Drainage,
canisters,
drainage, bro.
drainage, yeah, drainage. Now these started exploding, right? There was an instance which was they started exploding one at this time, and after a week it started at that point, and it started going on, right? And researchers find out that it was too old, the drainage was too old, so that the gases started forming in, and it started exploding, right? Now they turned back to a 82-year guy who worked on big data. Is not something that came into 2020 or 2020 in picture, right? It was there when we were not there. It was something in 1930 as well, right? So there is a guy that came into picture, and he said, let's solve it by numbers. Well, we have this much data about every locality, every drainage system. So that is the perk of living in a first world country as well, right? You get data about everything, right? So you are able to identify which is the establishment date of each drainage system, each sewage, and what kind of sewage every drainage would have, and what is the potential time of exploding, right? So if you are able to identify let's suppose the simplest solution to this was to neutralize this whole drainage, right? If it is becoming too acidic, you just put in your bleaching powder, and it reduces it, right? It won't explode. So the solution was very simple. Now the problem was, everybody knew this solution, right? But the problem was to identify at the what is the exact point when this will explode. Because if you put in to a drainage system that is going to explode 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks afterwards, right? That's of no use. But and if you are going to put it after 2 weeks, right? If you are going to put it every week, every day, you're wasting your bleaching or whatever you are. Now this guy was able to predict when is the potential time frame this every sewage has, which we have to replace or add life with these powders, right? And how did he do that is, again, sewage data plus every residential area and how they were made and what type of sewage they had, right? So this is where data comes into picture, right? This is, if you're solving something at mass or if you're solving something at scale, you'll go to numbers. But if you're starting to solve something very little and then you're going to thinking of scaling up, you better don't look at numbers, right? because because if you look at a subset of 100 people and 70 people going away, and you are expecting that if you go to target 10,000 users and only 7,000 users will churn away, then you're so bad at assumptions, because when you go and target this 10,000 people, 9,000 people will churn away, or 9,900 people will churn away, right? So assumption made at small scale is very dangerous, because you are forecasting something that is very fragile, right? It can change with 10 people coming in, and every 10 people is signed up. So this is the numbers. The next session we'll talk about the minute numbers, right? So what is the goal? How do you define a feature of success? How do you call it that the goal OKR has met, right? And how, so these are the things very important. And coming to revenue as well. So unfortunately, it has become a norm that product managers also see revenues, but ideally their job title isn't to do revenue, but product management. So if there is a notion that product manager can do everything, so revenue comes as well with that. So we'll talk about revenues as well, right? So revenue, because if you are able to make a product that people love and not monetize it,
Yeah.
there is a fallacy between two, right? So if you are able to make a product that people love, you should be able to monetize it. Monetize is much better. And if you are afraid of people dropping off when you start a paywall, you have not made a product that is loved. Take an example, universal example, Apple. Right? Simply. Awesome. So this is something we have run out of time as well. So we'll finish it here.
But
Last point
I,
everyone wants to add. Yeah.
I just had one question, Rohan, regarding these metrics. You were mentioning that when a company is small or maybe your user set is small, we can actually identify the decisions. Uh, let's say, does it stand true for both B2B, B2C? B2B, your user set is going to be 1,000. Let's say for a few companies, it might be just 1,000. At that point of time, whether a lower number makes sense. If that's the case, what's the benchmark or the what's the number at which we are looking at? So let's say if you have 1,000 user company, then at what level you should have started looking at the data?
Okay. Okay. So let's see. You're building a B2B product, right? So let's take an example, real life example. Uh, okay, let's talk about Freshdesk, right? You're able to give a chat to every platform, or you're able to give a messaging software to every email software. Now, you're a business, Rahul is a business, Deepak is a business. Every one of you will have very different needs, right? Maybe you are working in a DevOps, right, where you have to maintain a severity of tickets. You have to see where severity becomes very important, because you'll have to see what do you say, you have to see the windows shutting down, or you have to see servers up and running, right? So if there is a very high severe ticket, then you have to look at very important. So severity becomes a top most priority for you. Now, so Rahul is working as a Paytm product manager. He should be able to see the reviews coming in on his application, right? His app store or his Play Store. So he might want to look at that. So that is his priority. And Deepak is working on cred, right? He doesn't care about any numbers. He just want to read the feedback coming in. So businesses will have various businesses will have so much. So if you are demanding black, so if you're saying that I want a black, and Rahul is saying he needs white, and Deepak is saying he needs a gradient that is full of all the colors, maybe rainbow. So you have to make product that fits all, right? And when you start tracking that how many people are using black, that is a problem, right? Because in B2B you start doing that, and when you start doing that, that becomes a very big problem, right? You don't count how many people use black. You count how many people come in, because every person will come in to the login screen or the sign up screen, and then how many people have done this job that I wanted. So these two metrics will become very important in case of B2B. Not so in B2C, Paytm will look at how many people are doing UPI versus how many people are doing wallet, right? So that becomes very important to them. Now, credit will see how many people are paying rent and how many people are paying credit card bills, right? So this depends so much on the use case of the business. And in B2B, the less you rely on the numbers, because the subset is so less that even if 10 people come in and do the task much better, or
Yeah.
do the required task, the whole number or the conversation around it changes, right? So what was wrong at one point becomes so good at the next point. Yeah.
Basically what I feel is that if the numbers are very less in a
Mhm.
B2B context, so I think in my point every customers become equally important, and then the metrics changes. We don't look at how we look in a B2C concept, when the number of users are in millions, and then we start using data based on how what is the churn rate. But when in a B2B context, when the users are very less, I think the metrics itself changes. We don't focus on how many users are coming. We try to focus on features, I think, on
Yeah.
how that each customer gets help in that. I think the basically that changes overall the metrics on what you are measuring it as a successful product.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll add one more thing because I know this might be coming, or this might have hit, this thought might have hit your heads while we were discussing about numbers, that why I'm not talking about numbers as very positive thing, right? Right? That is a very personal choice I'm making right now. It can be very limited to you. You go and explore why numbers are very important. And why I don't want you guys to start doing numbers right now is because you lose the focus on how what product manager actually is. It is not about numbers. It is part of product management that you go and see this is a success or not. But ideally, your job is to go out and build something that is valuable to someone and they love the product. And then this is secondary, that if they love it or not. So how do you define if they love it or not? It can be you just go and ask them, or it can be if they are using it or not. Right? There can be multiple ways to interfere that. So it's up to you. Go out, search for numbers. Numbers are a very great thing. I am myself a data analyst previously, so I love numbers, but only when it solves your problem, not every time, right? That if so, there is a very famous quote that says, if you uh, what you say, if you mm, harass the number a lot, it will speak what you want them to speak, right? So if you go and turn numbers in your favor, so if you talk about scams, people did Satyam scam. That was basically interference on numbers. Number can tell whatever you want them to tell, right? So that's not an issue. But yeah, number is not something that is very close to product management, but it is something secondary that you should be knowing. That is something very important in terms of uh, the later stage of a life of product. Yeah.
Basically it comes at the last, when you have built your product.
Yeah.
So what I feel you're trying to say is that till the product is shipped, your main focus should be on what you are making, and you should mostly focus on how to make a great product rather than what it will bring. And when it is there in the market, then you can maybe focus on the numbers and see, because if you make a good product, it will automatically be accepted
Yeah.
until
Yeah.
unless
Absolutely.
there is some defect or some other
Yeah.
cases.
Yeah. Yeah. So last case study I wanted to you guys to have, you just wanted to see you guys as well. Go and see. You know Praveen Jadhav. No.
Oh,
Mm. Mute.
I,
Praveen.
uh,
Praveen Jadhav, being practical, I said he follow him on Twitter, so no problem.
yeah, I did.
PJ.
Yeah. So Paytm Money when started, it had a Google Play Store rating of 1.3, and now if you see that they have maintained a 4, more than 4. So idea is you start building something that is something, right? You need to go out to the market and get feedback, and he built the product from the feedbacks, and now it is something that can go with Zero Yoda, now that can go through Paytm, Grow app, everything else, right? So this, if you start working on seeing how Paytm Money evolved from that app of 1.4 ratings to what it is now, you'll understand the whole journey of product management. Right? That is something you can go and check out. Awesome. So Deepak,
yeah.
you want to add something?
Um, no, not really. But as I've seen product managers who were like directly hired from being a business analyst. So wherever I see, an opening for product management, I've seen requirements stating that it's better if you are a business analyst. So that means that the number is also an important part, right?
Oh, so my boy, you have take. So this business analyst role is interpreted in so many ways that I'll tell you how. So this is a scam that's going on right now as well. Business ideally analyst, what we really mean is a person who deals in numbers, who understands what he's doing, right? Who
Yeah.
comes and says, and then if he is promoted, he becomes a data analyst, right? And then data scientist.
Yes.
So that is what we preconceived, right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
what these guys mean by business analyst is somebody who gathers the requirement and goes back to the development team and goes back to a project manager or product manager and says, this is what I've gathered from the client. And then project managers work on that. So
Okay.
if I just search business analyst for uh, Accenture or any company like that, or a
Mm-hmm.
Wipro, right? You'll see that what policy I'm talking about. So this is something really bad that's happening. I I'm so disturbed about this, but we cannot help about this, right? Business analyst ideally means
Yeah.
a product person at a low scale or a product owner, right?
Okay.
So product owner and business analyst can go hand in hand.
Plus, there are various verticals a BA works on. So I think that is also not defined. BA, some BA does just numbers. Some BA has a portfolio of a consultant. Uh, so I think that is also so wide BA. So uh, I don't think all BAs can fulfill this part, in my sense, in my opinion.
But in that job application, I guess the business analyst they want is somebody who works on the requirements itself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Deepak, uh, uh, Deepak, you didn't I didn't get a chance to talk with you personally. So
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, just just add time tomorrow maybe.
Yeah. So
We'll have
definitely,
a chat.
definitely. Yeah.
And
I'll.
one feedback, yeah, one feedback I
Yeah.
got both of you is we
Mm-hmm.
need to talk about how we are targeting jobs, right? So that's something that is an end thing that you guys also want. Let's look at jobs specifically and how
Yeah.
we are going to target it, right? So let's do it right, but let's finish this first and then go back to that because we'll have mock interviews with a lot of folks from product manager, maybe Flipkart, Stripe, and a lot of things. So you'll learn from them as well, and in the same time we'll also see how we are going to apply for this as well.
Sure.
So Deepak, don't miss out on these sessions, man. I really
Yeah. Yeah.
don't want you
Definitely.
guys to. So even if
Definitely.
so, these are small things that you will miss out. Like so, Rahul mentioned about this gap that I missed in our previous session as well, and then it bring back all the essence of how gap is so important in all the product discovery and stuff. You guys are very
Yes,
sleepy.
sir.
Go back to sleep. We'll
Mm-hmm.
we'll meet again tomorrow. Bye bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Thank you, Rohan. Thank you, Sriram.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Deep.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so
guys.
much,
Bye bye.
everyone.